Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've been on the Phil Lyman. Give the whole tape to Candace. Like that one. I will. Of course, ever. Yeah, well, how do I like it? Oh, you like it with the heart. I can't remember whose page this is. S. Gatlin says, very sus. Nicole Row 3 says, these comments pass the vibe check. We want answers. We won't stop until we get them. Good. Pam Benanos says, 8 weeks ago, this is Phil Lyman, or Natalie for Utah, actually, I think that's her. I had your campaign signs in my yard. I voted for you and campaigned to my neighbors and friends for you. Why is there a statement from George Zinn on your campaign site, your campaign information? I made so many comments and videos saying how you were a great guy and should be our governor and concerned and wanting to help. And now I'm feeling weird about this. Please get the footage with the woman who was with the so-called shooter and let that be released, please. 9 likes, add a like. 10 likes. 2 replies. Alden Bailey at Pembin. Couldn't agree with your comment. Couldn't agree more with your comment. Why the silence now? Hiding information 8 weeks ago. Nicole Row 3 says, because he isn't the man he's claiming to be. In fact, based on the info in his bio, he seems to be quite the opposite. Alright. Now, who was the woman in the footage at Phil Lyman? Yeah, who was the woman in the footage at Phil Lyman? Is that all? Should I like this? No, I don't like that. I just like the comments. This was September 17th, 7 days after Charlie's shot.
Yeah, this is an amazing thing, and I feel inadequate to give a tribute to Charlie Kirk. I'll do the best that I can on that. I want to talk about some things. Just as I got here, Jeff handed me this book, the State and the Constitution. This is an important document. It's an important thing. And I'm going to set it over here, and I've got a few notes that I'll kind of go over. You know, as I was coming up here, I was thinking about all the different all the different things that have happened this week. I was there on Wednesday. I went down and I met Charlie as his entourage came in, and I spoke to him for a minute and said, you know, I'm glad you could make it to Utah. Phil Lyman, he said, oh, I know who you are. So welcome. It means a lot that you're coming out here. It's exciting. And what I've told people is when Charlie shows up, he brings the party with him. And it was a party. It was like, if you were there, how many of you were there on Wednesday? Were there? So there's a few. And he's throwing out the hats, and it's exciting, and I'm watching the crowd, and there's a group of protesters up there saying, you know, F Charlie Kirk, and he blows him a kiss, and it's just, you know, it's like, and this is what we are there to see, you know, it's like, oh, this is going to be fun. It's the Prove Me Wrong tour. We all like that. The kids love the format. It's where we talk about things. We debate those issues that are you know on people's minds. Before I go further, I should introduce myself. I'm Phil Lyman. A lot of you know me, maybe some of you may not. So, Phil Lyman, I ran for governor last year, but I've been in the legislature for 6 years. I was a county commissioner before that. Natalie Kloss is here. She was running as lieutenant governor, so give her a hand. Anyway, but that's kind of who I am, and honestly, just have been fighting this fight here in Utah, trying to fight the corruption that is so blatant and so obvious to me, both as a county commissioner for for 8 years, and then as a state representative for 6 years. And so when Charlie Kirk talks about these things, he talks about them in such real ways, such practical ways that the youth understand it. And he talks to them about conviction and courage to stand up for the truth. He talks about faith and family and duty. And these kids need that. And it's so ironic. It is really like a paradox that you come to Utah with that message.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Me? That's me. Developing halls. I don't know who Edward's sister hands are developing halls are.
And all of these kids who are there watching someone that they admire, some of them don't admire him at all, but they're there and they witness a horrific thing right in front of them. And people said, why Utah? Why Utah? Why would this happen in Utah? If somebody wanted to make a real point, a terrorist act, they would do it in front of a bunch of college kids in Utah who are really not prepared for that kind of to witness that kind of a thing. None of us are prepared to witness that kind of a thing. But he came to Utah, and we know what happened on Wednesday. That's just a week ago. It seems like a lifetime ago. I know with a few of the people that I were with, they didn't sleep. Some of them still are not sleeping at night. And I was telling Jody, I said, was that on Monday or was that on Tuesday? And she said, no, it was Wednesday. It's like, okay, well, what day is today? And where am I at? And what's going on? And, people were saying, well, you were there, so you probably have a better idea what happened. And honestly, if you were there, you probably are shell-shocked and confused and trying to come to grips with it. This morning when I woke up, I told Jody, I said, the only thing I know is that Charlie Kirk was killed. He did not die of natural causes on Wednesday. And if that's the case, then let's find out what happened. Was it Tyler Robinson on the roof with the 30-06? I don't know. But there's things that I do know. There's things that I've witnessed and that I've watched happen. The way that it was rolled out and the media performances that were being done were very offensive to me. I won't go into names. I won't go into names here, but there was a performance that was taking place in front of our eyes, and anyone that did not recognize that as a performance was not paying attention. When Kash Patel, had his 30 seconds, before he had pushed aside for the real show, and he said something about we had this image of
Natalie for Utah. Natalie, advocate for living. Oh my gosh. I don't even know.
Tyler in the stairway, but it was hard to tell. We did some AI enhancements, and I saw those things. It's like, okay, well, I saw that picture of the young man in the stairway. Then I saw a picture of Tyler Robinson. That's not an AI enhancement. That's altering that picture into something that fits a narrative that you want told. So again, I'm not trying to solve a mystery in that. I'm just trying to say there are questions that don't add up. This doesn't sound a lot like a tribute to Charlie Kirk, but I'm getting there.
I hope so.
My mother grew up in Orem, and her father owned a big cherry orchard and had sheep and bees and everything, where UVU sits now. We ran around in those hills. I was in Blanding. I'd come to visit. We ran around in those hills, and so I was familiar with that territory. I was familiar with the territory. I know the people who built up there. I know the families that have been there for a long time. And so some of the other things that I watched, when they said, he ran to the wooded area. It's like, well, is that the wooded area that's here? Is it the one that's down in the hole? Or is it the one that's up on the hill? Is it over Howell's Fence? Or is it near the Steels or the Broadricks? What are we talking about? Which wooded area? Then we saw some footage that day. We were told right off the bat, well, they got the shooter. And then we found out, well, they don't have the shooter. And then we said, oh, well, we got the other shooter, the real shooter. And then it's like, no, we didn't get the other shooter. And so we were sitting there at my relative's home. I parked there that morning because I knew it was going to be crowded. And then we saw all of these SWAT teams combing the neighborhoods. Like, okay, I don't think they've got the shooter because somebody's still looking for somebody here. And then we got a call saying, maybe lock your doors because this isn't quite resolved. So all of these things that are happening, you're just like, okay. How many of you knew George Zinn? Yeah, lots of people know George. And I saw that picture, and I thought, I didn't know I didn't recognize it as George. Actually, I think it hit my mind. It's like, looks kind of like George Zinn, but that's ridiculous. It wouldn't be George Zinn. This is a question. Why? Why him? Why the story? Why jump up and say I did it? Why have a banana in your pocket that looks like a weapon? Why? Why do you so then I go on a Fox News interview with Kayleigh McEnany, and I'm sitting there waiting. And while I'm waiting, they're playing this clip over and over of this guy walking down the street, with a stiff leg or whatever. But the interesting thing to me is that walking in front of my car. It's where I parked that morning. They said he got there at 11:49 or whatever. It's like I was there at 11:40. I'm like in the same trajectory of this individual. Anyway, all of those things aside.
This is a tribute. Remember that, Mr.
So what happened on Wednesday, and I said this to some gentleman that I was interviewing with last night, so I don't want to be redundant, but what we had was 3,000 young people who left there with a broken heart. And God can do a lot with a broken heart. It's one of the prerequisites to the miracles that are coming. And what I felt, something broke loose, like the dam broke loose. All of these howling hyenas that we've heard, finally we hear a roar from a true lion. And it silences the critics. It silences the argument. And
there you go.
Some people don't feel it. Some people still are, cheering the death of Charlie Kirk. Some people right here in Utah, in some of our high places, it's astonishing to me. But that's what I witnessed on Wednesday. It was a true miracle, and I think it's just starting. So, God bless Charlie Kirk. God bless his wife and his children. I think there are amazing things yet to come. So,
he wants to suit himself. That's what he wants to do.
I don't have anything planned on this, but if we could just take just a few moments of silence and think about that.
Yeah, you should take that moment of silence at first and about that, and that's about it. Where were you? Are you moving? Look at your phone. In the moment of silence, let's look at our phone while everybody's head is down.
Okay. That was more for me to gain my composure. Yeah, thank you all. Okay, today's an interesting day for me. It's a 12th year anniversary of the day I was indicted by the federal government for misdemeanor conspiracy to trespass. I was a county commissioner. My town had been abused by the BLM. That everyone had been lied to about what was going on. It was all a ploy to lock up the minerals of San Juan County. And it was a brutal attack that had taken place on my community back in 2009. And we had a protest, and it was an important protest, an important message that we sent. And then it was 5 months later, happened in May and then in September, however many months that is, 5 months later, that I was indicted and charged with conspiracy to trespass. Anyway, so that's kind of, we always joke. My friend who was also charged that day, he always texts me every September 17th and says, Happy Constitution Day and Indictment Day. Happy anniversary. And then there's another thing that I was doing a study on some things. This is just kind of to frame what I want to talk about in the bigger context. And when America was founded, we were founded on the common law that we'd inherited from England. So a lot of the things that came into our Constitution and our laws came from England, from the common law, Anglo-Saxon doctrines, all of those things. One of those Anglo-Saxon principles was what we call the duty to retreat. If you're faced with lethal danger, your first responsibility is to try to avoid that, not to pull out a gun and shoot somebody. And that's the way it had been. That's the way the colonies handled it, and all of it was going well until they got to Texas. And Texas says, we don't retreat. We just don't do that. That's not what we do. And they called it the real man doctrine. It says, if you're faced with lethal force, you can use lethal force right back. In the context of the Constitution, we say, is that constitutional? You know, the Supreme Court and Supreme Court judges did rule on that and say, that's constitutional. So I love that. I love that in America, and it became American law, that in America you have what we call the real man doctrine.
Real man doctrine?
Okay, I want to read a couple of quotes here, because I think they're good. And, Judge Learned Hand said, the spirit of liberty, in his speech entitled The Spirit of Liberty, I often wonder whether we do not rest our hopes too much upon constitutions, upon laws, and upon courts. Liberty lies in the hearts of men and women, and when it dies there, no constitution, no law, no court can save it. And Montesquieu, and I like this quote, and this was before the Constitution, before the United States was founded, before we had a Constitution, he said, political liberty is to be found only in moderate governments. It is there only when there is no abuse of power. So on one hand, you've got, if I can kind of illustrate this, on one hand, you've got freedom because people feel like they're free. Just because somebody says I have to do something doesn't mean I have to do it. I'm a free person. And governments maintain that freedom when they understand that you can't have corruption. You can't have abuse of power in a government and expect that the people remain free. And whose job is it to make sure that the government does not have abusive, corrupt people in it?
Our job.
It's our job, right? And if we have corruption in a government, whose fault is it? It's our fault.
Oh, okay. I got you.
We can say, well, we didn't vote for it.
You were not wrong.
Well, something happened and they're in there anyway.
Better reach out to Candace.
That's true. Yeah. Good point. Good. Yes.
We'll go on.
Tell us.
You are above me, please.
Just one more quote here. This one says, when we recall that the Soviet Union had a constitution modeled in many respects after the United States Constitution, it should be evident that liberty is not guaranteed by the scribbling of words on parchment. Those who wave the Constitution around as symbols of their liberty remind me of a dog who has learned to carry its leash in its own mouth. A society will remain enslaved as long as the conscious dispositions of individuals determine their subservience to political authority. And again, in America, our collective conscience does not make us servants, no matter what happens. And this is interesting that the Soviet Union has a constitution very similar to ours. They have elections. So I will say this, we have problems with our elections. We have problems with the transparency in Utah. Why would we have an election that is run by the lieutenant governor, for the lieutenant governor, with her deciding all of these things in concert with the governor, and have no ability to reference that, to look at it? Why would we have a signature path, but no one can look at the signature? Why would we have a primary, but no one can look at the primary results? Why would we have a list of voters, but no one can look at that list of voters? All of these things are a serious, serious problem. And we've got to do something about it. That's when I say we, I mean you right here, the people that are sitting right here, we've got to do something about it.
You're here.
Yeah, thank you. And what is it that we're going to do about it? Do we burn down buildings? Do we throw riots in the street? No. We get involved. We talk to each other and we demand a better form of government.
I like this.
This brings us back to what we're watching now. And I think we've become so conditioned like be given a narrative. It's like, well, that's the narrative.
Team Awesome.
And I'm going to take that narrative. That's going to be my narrative, and I'll defend it. But what we know as these things happen is what we're being told doesn't match up with what we're seeing. And what was a beautiful thing to me, I guess, through all of this, is that these college kids, these chapters of Turning Point, I think there was 18,000 chapters, and Charlie had said that, my goal is to get to 20,000 chapters. I don't know where we're at today, but it really jumped to 38,000, and I'm sure it's continuing to grow. 53,000? And some of you may have seen this reel. It really had an impact on me today. It's from kind of a guy on social media, and he said Charlie Kirk was killed at 12:23. If you look at John 12:23, what does it say? Do you see that? The hour of the glorifying of the Son of Man is coming. I'm paraphrasing, but then he says a seed of grain is just a seed of grain until it dies and it is planted, and then millions of things come from that. So that's what we saw, with Charlie Kirk, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Okay, I want to.
Did I miss something?
I want to get into just another thing here. I'll read some of this because this is kind of important. It's illustrative of what we're talking about here. The lives that were changed, UVU, I think we're going to see very, very positive things come from that, which I'm grateful for. And it's a miracle, and I'm grateful. I look at the kids who were traumatized that day, and I think,
You're grateful.
I hope that the Spirit is in their heart. I hope that God helps them to recognize the reality of what they saw and the life and the world that they're living in, and to be able to make a difference. So while the investigation is ongoing, and we're not trying to insert ourselves into that, not trying to criticize anyone that's doing their job. I was impressed with the response from the undercover police that were there, from the university police. Not critical of that. However, we do have a duty to ask thoughtful questions and to be willing to have difficult, heartfelt, and fact-based discussions. Our current governor stated that for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Well, based on what we know, Charlie Kirk's radicalized alleged killer is one of us. He's from Utah, raised Mormon, and a gifted student from a good, intact family. I know there's debate about all of that, so I'm not stating that fact. But you have to say, how did this happen? How did this happen in Utah? How do you take a kid that gets a 34 on his ACT test and radicalize him? And that's a question that I think we have to ask. If this was done at a very high level by people who wanted to undermine society and destroy America or what we believe in as America, then you can start to come up with the conspiracy theories. But if that comes all the way down to our colleges and our universities and our middle schools and our elementary schools, where we've got this indoctrination going on with SEL and DEI and all these things that have been implemented specifically, then we're just talking about where are we at on that same spectrum. Is this happening at a basic level? Is it happening at a high level? Whatever it is, it's happening with the same flavor and from the same source. People who hate America and want to see us destroyed. So it seems reasonable to ask what influence were on Tyler Robinson. Was it his boyfriend? Was it his college? Was it his associates? Was it the gaming community? It seems reasonable to ask those questions. What would drive a person in Utah to kill Charlie Kirk?
Yes, tell us, Phil. Please tell us.
Along with that, then I think we have to ask why that a little over a year ago, there was another male transitioning to female who killed his parents. down in the same community. And I'll tell you, I was on the phone most of the day today with people from St. George. They're hurting about this. They want closure. They want recognition that they are, that they're confronting this as well. By asking these questions, do we offend our current governor and his closest allies, who have put Utah into this position? Has Governor Cox's Quality Utah, Troy Williams, and the Jazz's program there, and all of these things have been pushed? Have they pushed the gay agenda? And what happens when we ask these questions? Do we risk being targeted, silenced, and sued, having our reputations destroyed, and losing our jobs? If we look at recent history of that, the answer is yes, that's what we risk. A friend of mine, Gaud Maragani, who a lot of you know, was one of the most outspoken people and most effective voices against transgenderism. Now, I'm not castigating any individual on their choices, but Utah has one of the premier clinics for transgender surgeries and transgender treatment. Why do they have that? And it's not a clinic of a few people that said, let's put together a clinic. It's the University of Utah medical clinic, funded by taxpayer dollars. We have to ask, why is this taking place in Utah? So Gaud stood up to this. He was targeted. He's a gay person of color, a great attorney, and he was the president of the Log Cabin Republicans. They shut down his chapter. They went after his job, and this was in Utah. It was being done not at the low level, but by the state, by people directly in the state. I could go on about this. The question is, do we sit back, do we watch these things? Gaud's experience is a very solid experience that we should pay attention to, because it's emblematic of what the rest of us are facing when we challenge the narrative that's here. Okay. I just want to talk to you, I guess, for a moment, just straight from my heart, and tell you that Utah is an important state. We are leading in so many respects. Our culture is one that brings us together. We do value family. We do value faith. That is who we are. That's who we are at our core. It makes sense that when you have people who are so committed to principles and values that they would become a target for evil influence. And I believe that Utah is targeted for that. I believe that our youth are targeted for that. And who is going to stand up for them? I've said many times that honest people have rights too, and the only hope they have is that when someone is abusing them and suppressing them, some other honest person will step forward and protect them. Nowhere is that more evident than in the case of an unborn child. Do they have a voice? Can they advocate for themselves? No, they can't. They need somebody else who will advocate for them, and we take that responsibility. If we don't take that responsibility, I believe that we are going to have to answer for that. But the same is true of our children in middle school, our children in grade school, the children who are having drag queens come and read stories to them. These things are not innocent. These things are not without consequences. So it's our job as honest people to stand up.
29 minutes.
To stand up for those people. I'm excited to hear Grove speak tonight, and I didn't get the memo on the dress code. I'm really sorry about that. I love the outfit. I'm a husband and a father. My wife Jody, a lot of you know her. She couldn't come up today. She's dealing with some other things in Blanding, but it really is about family. I told her I was driving home from legislature a couple of years ago, and I stopped by Walmart at Price, and I went in, and it was about 6:30 at night. I passed a woman who had a shopping cart with a baby in the thing, two little kids following her, and she was clearly very pregnant. And I thought, wow, yeah, that's a brave girl in today's world. And then I passed another person, similar situation. Her husband was with her, long dreadlocks and tattoos, kids in their carts. I went out in the parking lot and saw the same thing. Families, like young families, different culturally background from mine, but young families having babies, standing by their minivans and talking. And I called Jody and said, hey, if you ever want to see the kingdom of God on earth, go to Walmart at 6:30 in price on a Thursday night. And it did. I just felt it. And that's what Charlie talked about. Family. What is more important than family? What is it all about? It's about family. And we protect our kids. We take care of our parents. We take care of each other. It's what we are all about. That's what the Constitution is designed to do for us, is to protect our interests and to give us an avenue to keep the government in check. The Constitution is not a list of our rights. It's a list of the restrictions on the government that we've put in place. And if we forget that, then we'll have even more problems in front of us. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry we didn't get the note on the show. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. And this is an amazing thing. And I feel inadequate to give a tribute to Charlie Kirk. I'll do the best that I can on that. I want to talk about some things. Just as I got here, Jeff handed me this book, the State of the Constitution. This is an important document. It's an important thing. And I'm going to set it over here. And I've got a few notes that I'll kind of go over. You know, as I was coming up here, I was thinking about all of the different all the different things that have happened this week. I was there on Wednesday. I went down and I met Charlie as his entourage came in, and I spoke to him for a minute and said, you know, glad you could make it to Utah. Phil Lyman, he said, oh, I know who you are. So welcome. It means a lot that you're coming out here. It's exciting. And what I've told people is when Charlie shows up, he brings the party with him. And it was a party. It was like, if you were there, how many of you were there on Wednesday? Were there? So there's a few. And he's throwing out the hats, and it's exciting, and I'm watching the crowd, and there's a group of protesters up there saying, you know, F Charlie Kirk, and he blows with a kiss, and it's just, it's like, and this is what we are there to see, you know. It's like, oh, this is going to be fun. It's the Prove Me Wrong tour. We all like that. The kids love the format. It's where we talk about things. We debate those issues that are on people's minds. Before I go further, I should introduce myself. I'm Phil Lyman. A lot of you know me, maybe some of you may not. So, Phil Lyman, I ran for governor last year, but I've been in the legislature for 6 years. I was a county commissioner before that. Natalie Kloss is here. She was running as lieutenant governor, so give her a hand. Anyway, but that's kind of who I am, and honestly, just have been fighting this fight here in Utah, trying to fight the corruption that is so blatant and so obvious to me, both as a county commissioner for 8 years and then as a state representative for 6 years. And so when Charlie Kirk talks about these things, he talks about them in such real ways, such practical ways.
All right. Natalie for Utah. So this was the 17th. This was...
Okay, today is the morning of September 11th. We're back here at UVU campus. We were at the event yesterday with Charlie Kirk. I was there with 16 members of my family. My parents were there, 3 of my sisters, and 10 of our children were there. And I brought 2 of my kids. They have looked at Charlie Kirk as a hero for so many years. And we wanted to have our kids there today or yesterday so that they could be in his presence and to listen to him. He is a hero. He stood up for freedom of speech. He showed us how to have dialogue with people who we disagree with. He showed us how he's a Christian, he was conservative, he loved God, and we were here to hear his message. Because our children were there, a lot of them were up close and were witnesses right just a few feet away from Charlie. We've had several news stations reach out and asked us if we could come and tell the story. So we were here this morning, got here like 4 in the morning. So down here at UVU, there are a lot of news stations we can count over here. A lot of them are still here. There are a lot more here this morning from all around the world coming to cover this terrible story. So I just wanted to do a live, just so I don't know how the interviews, how they'll chop it up, but he is a wonderful person, and we're grateful that we were able to be there yesterday. It was a horrible day for America. We should be able to gather together in venues like that without having heavy security. We should be able to have conversations. And in that event, there was a lot of humanity. Also, my daughter, my youngest, I brought my 9th grader with me, and after the shooting, people scattered everywhere. So we had 16 people with us. We ended up in different buildings in different places. And my daughter, I couldn't find her, and she looked around and saw 2 college girls there and said, "I can't find my mom. Can I go with you?" And they said, "Yes, come with us." And so they took her and helped shelter her, took her to their apartment. And she stayed there for several hours until we were able to leave campus. Our phones weren't working for a long time, so we had trouble connecting with people. And then we were able, and then the apartment she was in was under lockdown, so it was difficult to even get through the parking and to get to and to see them. So thank you to those wonderful college girls who did that. I had other nieces and nephews who had other kids come out and help them shelter during that time. My nephew was taken, he was in 7th grade, he was taken and ushered into a safe room. The door locked behind him. It was a secured entrance, so he couldn't get in or out, and was in there for quite a while until we could get him out. So this is a traumatizing time for a lot of these people, for these children that were there, for our college kids, for these people, for all of us who have looked up to Charlie Kirk for these many years. But we need to remember his message and to go forward with faith, because we know the big plan, and we know the big picture, and we know that God is in charge. And so we will continue to fight and to stand up and to embrace our neighbors and to have conversations with people. And so here we are today. So everybody, reach out and love your neighbors and comfort those around you who are in need of your comfort. Okay, today is the morning of September 11th. We're back here at UVU campus. We were at the event yesterday with Charlie Kirk. I was there with 16 members of my family. My parents were there, 3 of my sisters, and 10 of our children were there. And I brought 2 of my kids. They have looked at Charlie Kirk as a hero for so many years. And we wanted to have our kids there today or yesterday so that they could be in his presence and to listen to him. He is a hero. He stood up for freedom of speech. He showed us how to have dialogue with people who we disagree with. He showed us how he's a Christian. He was conservative. He loved God, and we were here to hear his message. Because our children were there, a lot of them were up close and were witnesses right just a few feet away from Charlie. We've had several news stations reach out and asked us if we could come and tell the story. So.
Front row seats. Good for political theater. What does that say? Dr. Kirk Moore for Chris Anderson upheld the Hippocratic Oath and saved thousands of lives. Dr. Kirk Moore. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is either. It must be this guy. Here's Federal Courthouse. Phil Lyman. I don't know what this is about. Huh. this must have been the day. Utah Patriots.
Oh, and they come unstuck. Baby, running down to the riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that song, and I got a lump in my throat 'cause you're gonna sing the words wrong.
Here we go. Kirk and Dr. Kirk Moore. I wonder what he did.
Today is Friday, July 11th. We are here at the federal courthouse in Salt Lake City. It is day number 5 for the trial of Dr. Kirk Moore and Kristen Anderson. This is a huge case. People are watching it all across the country. We started off with a big rally here. Thank you for all of those who attended. It was a huge amount of support. There were people who flew in from all over the country to be here today. Shannon Joy came from New York. She's got a huge platform. And Ed Zoll and Matthew came from Florida. They have the Died Suddenly platform, and they've done a lot on know these issues very closely. So thank you for them for being here, for Jason Preston for organizing this event this morning, and for all of you who are watching and paying attention. Please continue to talk to people about this. Send this information on to your representatives. We've had some good people speak out about it. Thank you to Senator Mike Lee, who weighed in on this case, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Secretary Robert F. Kennedy. This is a huge case, and we absolutely need this to be dismissed. We need Pam Bondi to look at this case closely and to recognize that this is weaponization of the Justice Department, and they should not be being tried right now. They are heroes, not criminals, and they should be treated as such. So please, Pam Bondi, President Trump, we need your eyes on this case. This is the biggest case in the country right now. We need them to be dismissed. So a couple things going on. The court is still going on right now. Carrie Burgoyne has been testifying. She worked closely with Dr. Moore and was involved in this program where they took individuals and they helped them so they didn't have to take this COVID vaccine. A lot of them were doing it so they could keep employment or education opportunities. Some of them were on lists for transplants they couldn't get unless they were vaccinated. They were able to help those people. One thing to note is that Carrie is a witness called on behalf of the prosecution to testify against her former employer, Dr. Moore. She, as the attorney brought out, she would have been as a defendant with them, and she had been named as a defendant until just a few months ago when she entered a plea deal with the prosecution that she would testify against Dr. Moore in exchange for having her case dismissed and entering a plea in abeyance. And they talked about in court that the terms that she was given. So first off, she admitted that her plea statement was written by the prosecution, that was not her own words. And then secondly, we learned that her testimony today and what she says and how she delivers, they have removed sentencing until after today's hearing. And she will either serve 0 time and have a misdemeanor, or she could serve up to 6 months in jail based on what happens today. And so there's a lot of pressure on her, on her statements today. So a few other things that they were given. The prosecution had access to her phone for a long time, and they went through it, and they showed a number of text messages that she had made with others about the people who were who wanted to get these COVID cards, and a lot of it. But there was, as the defense attorney, Kathy Nestor, brought out, with access to her whole phone, they had 0 evidence in there showing that Dr. Kirk Moore was motivated to destroy the CDC's program or to frustrate the program, or there was no evidence where he even said through text that she should destroy any of these vaccines either. And in fact, he never even talked to her about destroying the vaccines until after the whole year 2022. And it wasn't until January 2023 that she said that she had a discussion with him that was based on her own testimony. So there's a lot. Kathy Nestor is doing a fabulous job representing the defense, and there's a lot of questions out there. This case should never be going forward. And thank you for your continued prayers on behalf of Chris and Dr. Moore and their attorneys, and continue to watch this closely. And Pam Bondi, this is your chance to make it right with America. And President Trump, please help these people be treated as heroes. Please drop these charges against them. Thank you. Today is Friday, July 11th. We are here at the federal courthouse in Salt Lake City. It is day number 5 for the trial of Dr. Kirk Moore and Kristen Anderson. This is a huge case. People are watching it all across the country. We started off with a big rally here. Thank you for all of those who attended. It was a huge amount of support. There were people who...
Uh-oh, I'm froze. I'm froze there. And over here... just for shits and giggles. Better roads ahead. As governor, Phil Lyman will stand up for Utah. Lyman for governor. Please make a contribution. I saw you only made 4. Why is Phil Lyman running?
Let me read you a statement from Adam Smith that is I guess it's kind of defined who I am as a politician. I read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations years and years back. I'm a CPA by profession, so I'm interested in economics and stuff. But he says, little else is required to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence from the lowest barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice. And a lot of people are familiar with that, but then he goes on and says, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things. And this is Adam Smith, the natural course of things. And then he says, all governments which thwart this natural course, which force things into another channel, or which endeavor to arrest the progress of society at a particular point, are unnatural, and to support themselves are obliged to oppressive and tyrannical measures. So, a couple of cases in point. I've got the guidebook here for Moab. I was talking a little bit earlier. Some people are familiar with Moab. Lots of places to ride down there. It's kind of an outdoor recreation hub for Utah, or has been in the past. Yet they decided we don't like ATVs. Moab City tried to pass an ordinance that says basically no ATVs in town. It's like, well, the state actually already addressed that. It said you can't discriminate against a class of vehicle. You can enforce a noise ordinance, you can do all kinds of things, but you can't say, we like Harley Davidsons or loud cars, but we don't like ATVs because they're too loud. You got to find out some other reason, and then you can enforce that. But now they've come with the environmentalists running the agencies, the Bureau of Land Management. They come in and they say, we're closing 317 miles of route. A third of the trails in Moab, they're closing. That's an unnatural arresting by the government of the natural course of things. It's not natural that those trails would be taken. Number one, they were given under the revised statute 2477, RS 2477 roads since 1867 have been permitted across public lands. So the grant was given, it was accepted, roads were built, and we have those roads. Now they want to come back and say, maybe that was the case, but we really don't like that, and we want those roads to go away. Another one, and these are just things from today. So this one is the Intermountain Power Agency audit report, IPA down in Miller County. Huge electricity producer. I think 2% of it goes to Utah, 98% of it heads on down to Nevada and California. And what I like businesses. I like IPA. I support businesses that want to produce. I stand by them. They have these controversies because of property taxes. But as I look at this, they were given status as a political subdivision. So a company that has a political subdivision status, which is,
Lyman.
putting things into a different channel, as Adam Smith
Phil
was
Lyman
you know, it's
and
been
Natalie
forced
Foster.
into another channel. They're not treated like a normal
Richard
company,
and Carol
and as a
Lyman.
result, they create problems.
Yeah, who was Richard and Carol Lyman? Why would he need to be a write-in? On September 3rd, approximately 2 hours before the deadline, that's an awfully late filing deadline, by the way. Why do you have to write in? $1,000 in a steak dinner. Hmm. 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 No, it's all been cleared, and I checked it out. This is rich. They are setting up an account and donating to me to run. And I'm actually the one that's registering to be a write-in. I will record it all. So this is Richard Lyman saying so. It's all been cleared. And I checked it out. I wonder, is Richard Lyman related? Richard and Carol Lyman, are they related to Mr. Phil? September 28th. Huh. Interesting. I need to work on some music. October 25th. Dear candidate, you're receiving this email to notify you that Richard Kennedy Lyman and Carol Ann Lyman have withdrawn as write-in candidates for the governor and lieutenant governor, respectively. This means that any write-in votes for them will not be counted. For more information on candidates who are running for office, please visit. It's not the governor's race next year, is that when it is? Notice this 2024. Hold on, this was 2024. This was last year. Okay. Oh, this is the one that he lost. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, 2024. Okay, this makes sense now. Wow. Salt Lake. Similar strategy, kind of like a maroon shirt strategy. Kind of like a maroon shirt code strategy. We'll flood the field with lions. We have governor's race. I wonder what the results were. Let's go find out. Come on. Take me back. Country road. Take me back. They're all on the same team. Endorsements. He knows the U.S. Constitution. Menticky goons. I want to see George Zinn's endorsement. I bet it's not there anymore, but I know the people that know Phil. I know the people that know him. I'm from Texas. I know Sherry Pugh, Broken Swan, Dan Lyman. There's another Lyman. A great man. Amazing candidate for governor. An even better dad. This is his son, Dane. Alright. Phil's not capitalized. Not using them as pawns for his own. Because Phil stands with the people to fight for our rights, not just using them as pawns for his political gains. One of the best men that I know. Hardworking, honest, and kind to everyone. Mike Holliday. Representative Lyman is a fighter. As a senior in high school with my full future ahead of me, I trust that, this is how seniors in high school speak, I trust that Phil will lead us to better roads ahead. Oh, wow. And maybe we can use that, Chase, can we use that as our propaganda headline? Better roads ahead? Oh. He has stood up in times that others have chose to stay seated. Phil doesn't back away in times of crisis. He leads. From San Juan County Commissioner to the Utah State Legislature, he has a proven record for fighting for the people of Utah. Chase Levitt. I don't know any senior in high school that speaks like that. I am so impressed that Phil fought against the federal government when his rights were taken away. I think he really understands the proper role of government and is the perfect person to lead the state of Utah. I have known Phil for 40 years and have watched him in action. He loves this country and he loves Utah, and he will make a great governor. I endorse him completely and without reservation. Rory Adams. I've always loved Phil. I grew up with his son Cade, and I've loved everything he has done for the county and for Blanding especially. I live in Phoenix now. And can't vote for Phil, but if I could, I would. But I would vote for you in a heartbeat and wish you the best of luck. Le Grand Red. I've known Phil for many years. He is a true patriot and a man of his word. He knows how crooked the system is, and he is willing to fight for the people. I believe Phil and I are on the same page with our beliefs, and I support 100% for governor. Another great state of Utah, Brett Stewart. Rare to find a more caring man with uncompromising goals to make Utah great for generations than Phil Lyman. Not a politician who can be pampered. Phil has a knowledge of urban and rural Utah from every corner and community. Utah is in desperate need of a true leadership and representation, and Phil has the passion and values to be a great governor. He needs our support. George Zinn. Oh, that's George Zinn. Right there we got George Zinn's. There we are. Rare to find a more caring man with uncompromising goals to make Utah great for generations. See, it's the whole sentence structure. Well, I'm sorry, I picked on you, George Zinn, but I picked on George Zinn. You're PDF, you're PDF, they say, is what they say, I think. But, rare to find a more caring man with uncompromising goals to make Utah great for generations than Phil Lyman. Not a politician who can be pampered. Phil has a knowledge of urban and rural Utah from every corner and community, including Blanding. Utah is in desperate need of true leadership and representation, and Phil has the passion and values to be a great governor. He needs our support. George Zinn. Let's just go ask ChatGPT something. I just gotta know. I just don't know where this George Chat and GPT. Hello, ChatGPT. Let's talk. Let's chat. Let's chat as your name implies you like to do. Chatty Cathy. That's alright. I should have made a project there sometime. Alright. Can I get the microphone, please? Alright, there we go. Hello, dear. I was just doing some research on the Charlie Kirk assassination and following the breadcrumbs. And again, I land at Phil Lyman, the former gubernatorial candidate. And on his website, what is it? LymanForUtah.com. LymanForUtah.com. In fact, let me take it for you. There is a section for quotes, endorsements, third-party endorsements, and right there is a George Zinn, who was also at the Charlie Kirk thing. I don't want to say the word because I forgot I'm also streaming live on YouTube. However, the event that happened September 10th at the UVU campus, he was, as Cleopatra Candace mentions, she calls him a decoy boy. Apparently, the report is that he had a banana in his pocket to look like a gun. His is the pants that fell down and said, "I did it the moment it happened." I would like to know, where is George Zinn registered to vote in Utah? Where do we have an address? Can we do like a mini deep dive on George Zinn? That would be my question. Because some of these weird Utahns, if he's a Utahn, but some of the weird, I would just say weirdos in this story, the Tyler Boyers and the deviants. Our next musical piece will be on deviants, and although we did, by the way, good job to us because we watched Candace today. We were live there, and thanks to our instincts, I guess. Yeah, she mentions the place across the street, the old world building with the griffins up top, and the children's entrance to the dungeon's maw. So thank you for your insights there, your help. So can you give me some more insights on this George Zinn guy? Maybe Tyler Boyer, any other deviants that might be associated with either TPUSA and Charlie Kirk or this particular story of his assassination. Thank you. We know there is a connection between Rob McCoy and the Calvary Church, whatever they call it. What is that name? Calvary. Anyway, you know where we're going. Alright. Oh, and I was going to attach a screenshot. I said I would. Let's do a screenshot for you. Screenshot. That would be in pictures, right? Pictures, and we go screenshot. And then we go to details. Then we go to date. Then we go to date. Okay, well. I don't want that. Hold on. 12. There we go. And that's it. And there you go. continue on with these. Phil Lyman stood up to the federal government's overreach. Yes, he mentions he has we learned that he is indicted in 2009 by the federal government for conspiracy to trespass or something over some minerals, right? Federal land, regardless of the cost. This is important with Utah's rich natural resources that play a geopolitical interest. Yeah, I would even say a global geopolitical interest. Phil has demonstrated consistently he will stand for the people and will listen to their concerns and not lobbyists or special interest groups' concerns. Phil Lyman understands the desires of Utahns that want fiscal and social conservatism. That we don't want the woke culture and DEI issues espoused from our governor. I wholeheartedly endorse Phil Lyman, Casey Gale. I listened to Phil in Linden for about 90 minutes. His has the right stance on every issue. We need a governor that will defend our unalienable rights against the destructive despotism of the federal government. We need a governor that respects the limitations of office. Phil is the right person at the right time. Phil Lyman is a man of the people. He has proven. Record for what he's doing, blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, Joe, I really just want to see who's commenting. Brock Seeley, Fred Hayes, Kent Hastings, Janet Eyring, Mantique Guns, Timothy Dillard, Sherry Poog, Brooke Swanson, Dane Lyman, that Lyman again, that's his son, we know that, yeah. Dane Lyman, Hanson Perkins, Mike Halliday, Chase Livette with a Y, Jennifer Savage, Rory Adams, Legrand Red, Brett Stewart, George Zinn, Casey Gale, Dwayne King, Joel Woodruff, Brock Seeley, Fred Hayes, Kent Hastings, Janet Eyring. That's a long one. Utah Rep does not have millions of funding behind him, like Governor Cox does. But he is truly the superior candidate who represents Utah Republican platform. He is a fiscal and social conservative. He received top 10 rating in the Utah House for limited government and pro-constitutional voting. On the other hand, Cox, on the other hand, has shown himself aligned with the corporations, globalists, and the woke. With his approval of taxpayer-funded stadiums, identity politics, and schools, voted vetoing a bill that banned boys playing from. Huh. Alright, anyway, I'm tired of this website. Do we have to do anything more on it? Supreme Court tonight. What's he asking for the Supreme Court to do? Alright. The most write-in votes in a statewide race in U.S. history. Utah Republican Convention winner. What's that mean? Nothing? Who received the most write-in votes in a statewide race. So he's already pushing the write-in stuff. Well, the write-in was because of the other people, right? The other Lymans that... I don't know. Petition for writ of certiorari was docketed November 12th with a response due December 12th. Petition seeks a clarification on the authority of a state to require a candidate to participate in a direct primary election despite the candidate having received the nomination from a political party through its convention process. I wonder what happened. Lyman won. Sole nominee Spencer Cox failed to meet the minimum 40% required by the Utah GOP, making him the first incumbent governor to fail to meet this minimum threshold. Cox then sought to continue his candidacy by using the signatures he had previously collected for a nomination petition. Huh? That's interesting. Very interesting. It is ironic. Huh. Lyman, why were you not on the ballot? Can't you be on the ballot? Because you... I thought that's what your little gang was about, right? Utah Republican gang. Huh. 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 Results. Huh. Very interesting. Look at that. Huh. Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina. Well, Politico, that's kind of disappointing. That's all you got? I guess I'll have to trust. I'm gonna have to trust the lieutenant governor's results, I guess. Kind of like here in Riley County. November 5th, 2024. Yeah, it was the 5th, huh? They don't have very many counties. How many counties does Utah have? It's not 100. Look like we got it. Huh. I'd like to know. I would like to know something about your courthouses. Yeah, you guys don't. Can we do it by office? Oh, okay, right here. There we go. Hold on, does it get on there twice? Huh. They look like brothers. They all look like Spencer Cox and Archie Williams. They've got to be brothers. Archie Williams the third, Archie Williams the second, Archie Williams the first. The elections page. Archie Williams the third. Alright, I gotta get some music. Did I stop recording? Am I still recording? Yeah, we stopped. Good. Let's get some music. Let's try your video. We gotta go all the way back.
They said the war was over. They lied. The yellow tail cut through the sandy sky. Minute held its breath, and Valhalla whispered, 30 through hours, 30 through kills. Neon desert, pyramids in parade. Your radar list reads like a masquerade. Maroon shirts in the light, walking cold. My eyes saw the whisper before it showed. Lands in strip, a 1 hour stop. Minutes goes in the air, we watch. Yellow plane from Cairo runs the ledger dry. They filed no names, but they left the sky. Caesar roll, the crown of Rome, and Brutus smiled behind the dome. Into brute, the knives were gold. The Senate paved, the conspirators rose. Shadow of Valhalla, ringing through the night. Into brute, who betrayed the light. We saw the tail number, we heard the call. When the prophets watched the town flight path angled across the states. Investment mission, claim the trade. But the cameras blink when the cylinders rise, and the numbers dance where the ledger lies. Brother in arms, spawn of patsies, the bishop's robe and the missile's axis. They train beneath the flag you trust, but the real war's in the file they hushed. They called it Valhalla, gave the countdown sign. 33 hours, the watchers align. A press room paused, a message said, "And rest now, brother. We have the watch." Shadow of Valhalla, ringing through the night. Et tu brute, who betrayed the light? We saw the tail number, we heard the call. When the prophets watched the towers fall. Shadow of Valhalla, marching maroon. The roster hides beneath the moon. Yellow plane, ancient game. We know your ledger, we know your name. Pyramids rise from the desert of trust. The scale is unbalanced, the sword is dust. Go stamp the certificate of truth, and we walk the acronym of our youth. Betrayal's cradle song hums soft in the archives, where the ghost of Caesar cuts the ties. The brute, the brute, yellow sky, maroon tide, ledger close, truth denied, truth denied, truth denied, truth denied. Shadow of Valhalla, ringing through the night. Et tu brute, who betrayed the light? We saw the tail number, we heard the call. When the prophets watched the towers fall. Shadow of Valhalla, marching maroon. The roster hides beneath the moon. Yellow plane, ancient game. We know your legend, we own your name. We have the watch. We shall see the ledger burn. Walk how you will, but the numbers walk you back.